Amazon sales crossing the wire right now. Fourth quarter EPS coming in at $27.75. The street was looking for $3.77. I'm going to double check that number to make sure that comparison is right. Net sales number, $137.4 billion. That's pretty much in line with what the street was looking for. Operating income at $3.5 billion. The street on average was looking for $2.43 billion. Here's your forecast. 1Q net sales, $112 billion to $117 billion. That's the range. The street was looking on average for $120. So that is a miss. Amazon Prime annual memberships prices actually going up here. A lot of headlines crossing the wire, guys. But overall, it looks like the fourth quarter numbers beat first quarter numbers, first quarter guidance missing.
Yeah, this is not a good look ahead in terms of Amazon. And as we say, we've got to unpack what happened with Metro on the day, where you saw a $252 billion market value erased. That is the most we've ever seen in history of these U.S. equity markets, as you've been so cleanly showing what sort of a fall we see in Amazon if indeed their net sales outlook looks bad.
I just real quickly here, their 1Q operating income, and we're going to double check to make sure these comparisons are right, but they're given a range of $3 billion to $6 billion. The street was looking for $6 billion. So the guide on that bottom, on the sort of the bottom end of that range, is half of the average of estimates. So we're going to double check to make sure these numbers are matching up right. But if that is the case, that would be a pretty big miss. But you look at the share reaction here, guys.
It's rallying.
Look at that, Carol.
Big time. It's up more than 12% in the after hours. So you do wonder whether or not those numbers aren't right. It's also showing some pricing power, right? By raising Amazon Prime. That's big.
Of course, hearing from Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, saying we are experiencing higher costs driven by labor, supply shortage, and inflationary pressures. These issues persisted into the first quarter due to Omicron. But despite these challenges, yes, we're excited, we're optimistic, blah, 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 but really highlighting the 40% AWS growth.
That 40% AWS growth is phenomenal.
Yeah, the Prime news is huge as well. It shows that Amazon has pricing power, obviously. But look, Prime membership was just last raised in 2018. It was $119 a year. The monthly cost for Prime is going up too, from $13 to $15.
Poonam Goyal, senior U.S. retail analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence, joining us right now. Poonam, what jumped out at you?
The Prime membership increase. That's great that they're able to increase the price up, because a lot of that helps them offset rising costs that they've been dealing with, whether it's labor or freight. Aside from that, we thought the fourth quarter sales numbers were pretty good. 9% is what they reported. They had guided, and that was on a lowered guide of 4 to 12%, so relatively in line. We're not too surprised to see 1Q guide a little softer, because that's what we've been seeing across the board. They are up against very tough comparisons as they, pass through the pandemic.
Yeah, it definitely shows pricing power there. What's interesting too is I always think about Amazon Web Services, right? This is such an important metric. Poonam, how do we think about that one? Fourth quarter AWS, $17.78 billion. That was a little bit better than the street estimate of $17.23 billion.
Yeah, we called that. We saw great numbers out of Microsoft earlier, and we had said that AWS should hold strong as well. We continue to be very optimistic on AWS. They have strong margins, and the margins will get better as they gain scale. So overall, the growth rates that we've been seeing across AWS should continue into 2022 as well.
It's sort of fascinating that Amazon used to be this business where we always waited for profit. They always wanted to reinvest. They wanted to make you bet on sales instead. But now we're getting a net income number that is so significantly higher than the previous year, $14.3 billion compared to the $7 billion a year ago. And it's notable that it's a change of leadership within that year as well. What do you think that the market really wants to see now out of Amazon? How do they use this pricing power to their advantage?
Yeah, the profits are all really coming from AWS, right? If you look at the composition of profit, about 70 to 80% of that is AWS. It was 50% prior to the pandemic. So that's where the profits are coming from. And we continue to expect that to be the case in the future, especially as AWS profits go from 30% to 35% in the longer term.